Morning also.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Okay, so we have completed existential therapy from humanistic existential therapeutic approaches, and the pending ones are client-centered therapy as well as the gestalt therapy. Okay, so please don't confuse existential, gestalt as well as the other one, client-centered therapy that comes under humanistic existential approaches or humanistic existential form of therapies. Okay, so we'll start with client-centered therapy. Write the heading client-centered therapy. This is also called self-centered therapy. Okay, and as I told you, when we started discussing about humanistic existential methods of therapy, this is also a non-directive method. Non-directive method means who has the main role?
The client.
The client has the main role, which means the therapist is just a dash. Raina, what is it? Non-directive methods, the therapist is a dash. If client has the main role, then the therapist will have a what role? What is the role of therapist? I'm looking for a particular word, starts with F. Do you remember? Meghna?
Facilitator.
Facilitator. Okay, therapist is always a facilitator in any form of non-directive methods, especially in humanistic or existential form of therapies. Therapist is always a facilitator. Please note that if you don't know, therapist is always a facilitator. Therapist is always a facilitator. Okay. Then, self-centered therapy or client-centered therapy. What all do you remember about the self-centered approach? Remember Carl Rogers' concepts? We studied that in the theory section. Humanistic theories, existential theories. We learned about need hierarchy by Abraham Maslow. Remember that? Need hierarchy? Yes. What was on top of the need hierarchy?
Self-actualization.
Self-actualization. Similarly, we had Carl Rogers' concepts. You remember anything? I think Reshma took seminar on that.
The ideal self and the real self.
Yes. So we are born with a particular self, the true self. Okay. And as we move towards different stages in our life, in our lifespan, we split the self into two. Which are they? There will be one real self, and also there will be an ideal self. Okay. This is a theoretical concept behind client-centered therapy. We are just revising it. Okay. After that, we'll see what are the therapeutic methods. So, in real self and ideal self, real self means what you are right now. Hmm? And ideal self means Elvina, what would be ideal self?
What you wanted to be.
Yeah, what you want to become. That is, you have a certain standard that you want to reach, or you have a certain ideal. That is the ideal man or ideal woman or ideal post, ideal behavior that you think. Hmm? And how does a psychological abnormality arise according to this humanistic or client-centered approach? According to self theory of Carl Rogers, how does psychological abnormality arise?
When the ideal self and real self is not the same or cannot become the same.
Yes, if the dissimilarity, to suggest that dissimilarity between ideal self and real self, we have a word. Do you remember that? It's related to mathematics. In geometry, you study about triangles. You have a chapter on this. It's denoted by this symbol in mathematics.
Congruence.
Congruence, correct. Okay, so generally we denote this ideal self and real self like this. I mean, in terms of congruence and incongruence. Okay, draw once more. Wait. So, incongruence or congruence, which one is good? Which one is better?
Congruence. Incongruence, it will be same.
Congruence is same. Which is the same? What did you say? I didn't understand.
Like when we say two things are congruent to each other, that means two things are similar or same to each other. They have similar properties or stuff.
Okay, yes. So here we have two circles. Consider one as ideal self and the other one as true self. I mean, sorry, the real self. Okay, so let this be ideal self and this be real self. Okay, but in both these circles, which part is common? Only this much part is common. Do you understand? Only that much similarity is there between the real self and the ideal self. So obviously the person would be experiencing some form of abnormality, anxiety, depression and all. Is it not? Yes. If the concept that you want to become and your own concept about yourself is very different, then obviously the person will at least experience some form of anxiety. Yes. And the what is the better condition? We have to make this congruent, which means two circles should be similar. This much, at least this much should be similar between the two, the ideal self and real self. And it's very difficult to make both of these concentric circles, which means it's very difficult to make both the circles like this. So some form of dissimilarity will be there, and our aim in the therapy is to decrease this incongruence. So that if the incongruence is decreased, then what will increase?
Congruence.
Congruence will increase. Do you understand? Yes. So if we eradicate the dissimilarity between real self and ideal self, then similarities will increase, improve. That is the concept. We have to bring down the incongruence and increase the congruence. Between whom? Between real self and the ideal self. Understood? Okay? Now, in therapy, also our main aim is to bring congruence between the real self and the ideal self. For example, if it is a person with suffering from some body image disorder, like they don't feel that their body, different body parts, like maybe nose, the shape of nose is not appropriate, it's not accurate. They are very much anxious, very much worried about their nose, the shape of the nose. Okay, so they feel like doing surgeries and then getting treatments and medications for that. Always. They are not satisfied with the shape of their nose. Okay. Now, if we are bringing them to the client-centered therapy, what would be our aim? So here, what is the real self and ideal self? Think like that. Sneha, what is the real self and ideal self here? Person is not satisfied of the person's shape of the nose. So which means what will be the ideal self? Tell? No idea.
The ideal self would be the way the person want to see us. I mean the
Yes.
nose.
Yeah. The person has a standard. The person has an ideal shape of the nose. That is what the person is trying to achieve. But even after so many surgeries, the person is not satisfied. Okay. So again, what is the real self here? Whatever the person is right now. That is the real self. Okay. So the aim of the therapy is to bring congruence or match the real self with the ideal self to a very large extent. All right. We'll see one video and come back. So that was it. So which were the main concepts in Carl Rogers' theory? What did you see in the video?
Authenticity.
Authenticity or genuineness. We can relate that to genuineness of the person, genuineness of the therapist. Then, what else?
Unconditional positive regard.
Unconditional positive regard. Then, one more. Authenticity, unconditional positive regard. Which was the other one, Meghna?
Empathy.
Empathetic understanding, or we call it empathy. Okay, now all these topics we have already discussed in the previous classes. Authenticity is a new word. Authenticity means being authentic, being real, or being genuine to the client. Then what is unconditional positive regard again? Rena? Unconditional positive regard. What does that mean? Mehak?
Considering everyone as a good person.
Yeah, consider the client as a good person. Just understand the fact that we all make mistakes. We all have different phases of life and we are not always perfect. So as therapists, we have to accept that fact that the client is also a human being. The client can also make mistakes. The client is not always wise. The client is not always doing the right thing always. It's not the perfect things happening in the client's life always. So understanding the fact and accepting the client in a positive manner. That is unconditional positive regard. We regard the client as positive without any condition. That is unconditional positive regard. That is basically being non-judgmental. That is the thing, non-judgmental. Okay, do not judge the person because the client is telling some of the traumatic experiences that the client has had, or maybe the client must have caused some trauma to some other person also. But you should not judge them based on that. Just consider them as a positive entity and then move the therapy forward. It is unconditional positive regard. Raina, understood? Okay. Now the third one is empathy. What was empathy, Amal? Empathy. When we think of empathy, what can we think of?
It means to understand the person feeling and help.
So what is the difference between empathy and sympathy then?
In sympathy, we can misunderstand, but we does not do anything to help.
Okay, yeah. Sympathy means just feeling pity for the others. Empathy means actually feeling what the other person is going through. Hmm? That is really understanding what the other person is experiencing at that particular moment. And what is the statement that I told you? When you hear of empathy, you have to think of a statement. What is it? Being in some other person's shoes. That is a statement that we usually refer to when we think of empathy. Okay, being in some other person's shoes or being in others' shoes. That is empathy. Okay, thinking from their own perspective, feeling from their perspective. Suppose if I see one of you getting beaten up by some stranger, okay, if I have sympathy, I'll just stand here and I'll see, oh, pity on you, you got beaten up by someone, even by a person you don't even know. I'll just stand there and think. But if I'm empathetic, then I can really feel your pain. I can come and help you because of that. Because I'll think if I were in your position, then I might have felt very bad. So I can come and help you if I have empathy. People who are sympathetic just stand at a distance and then feel pity for you. That's it. Okay. And yeah, that's about the three concepts. So we have authenticity or genuineness, it can be called. Otherwise, we have unconditional positive regard, which is being non-judgmental of the person and having considering the client as essentially positive. Then third one is empathy. Okay. Now, in therapy, what do we do is we create a situation. Suppose the client and the therapist both are engaged in a therapeutic relationship. So here, the therapist is showing warmth. Okay? Warmth in the sense the therapist is creating an atmosphere where the client can really open up. The client feels welcoming in the situation. So in real life, maybe the client is not able to express himself or herself. So here, there is a warm situation created, a warm ambience created by the therapist. Warmth means, doesn't mean that it has nothing to do with the temperature and all. The thing is, when you feel comfortable with someone, you can open up, isn't it? Yes? Yeah. So just like that, the therapist also creates a situation where the client can really open up. The client can do the lead role in the situation. The client can actually find what is the problem going on and what are the solutions for it. The client can actually do that. Or identify the problems and solve the problems on his or her own with the help of the therapist. And who is the therapist here, Raina? What role does the therapist have here? Facilitator. Don't forget that again, okay? Therapist is always a facilitator here. So creates a warm situation with empathy, with genuineness or authenticity, with unconditional positive regard. The therapist keeps on facilitating the client to find his or her problems, identify the causes, and then modify them his or her own. Okay. These are the general concepts. And what is the main aim of the therapy? To decrease the incongruence and to increase congruence between real self and the ideal self. Okay, that is all about client-centered therapy. Remember, you have this concept of self. Remember the name of Carl Rogers, the concept of self. ideal self and real self, congruence and incongruence, then empathy, authenticity. And authenticity, I don't think it's there in the text, but you can mention, no problem. Authenticity and unconditional positive regard. These are the main concepts in client-centered therapy. So whenever a question comes based on client-centered therapy, you have to write these, include these many points. Got it? Okay. Now I think we have one more small topic, that is Gestalt therapy. Please switch on your videos, Ashish, Sana, Grishma and Sneha. So the next one is Gestalt therapy. Yeah, in the previous video you might have seen what is the focus of Gestalt therapy. What approach did I tell you?
Here and now.
Here and now approach. Gestalt therapy always follows a here and now approach, which means the focus is on the
Present.
present. Okay. In that video, did you notice that the therapist is not giving any proper instruction to the client? Instead, the client itself is finding identifying the problem and finding solutions to the problem. Did you notice that? Because the therapist is just telling him or reflecting whatever the client has told the therapist. Like if he says the dialogue, I have a problem with my father, or I'm fearful of my own thoughts, then the therapist, what she did is, therapist just reflected that back to him. So you're telling that you are fearful of your own thoughts, isn't it? So the client confirms. Okay. So we use clarification. We also use reflection method in that. So the therapist is speaking the client's own words actually, and it's reflecting back to him so that he can understand what he is actually speaking. He can understand what he is really going through. So in Gestalt therapy, the main aim is to create self-awareness. Self-awareness and self-acceptance. And I told you there is one technique called empty chair technique, which we saw in the video. And what did the person speak to his father? What was the content of that speech?
He spoke about his problems and what actually his father is insisting him to do and what he
Yes.
can actually do.
Yes. So he was kind of confessing, right? Yeah, he was telling the therapist, the father, in the imaginary position, in the empty chair. He was just talking to the father, and he was telling, I know that I'm very bad at whatever you want me to be. Like he cannot be a doctor or something, but he has his own likes, he has his own wishes, and he has his own skills and talents also. Okay, and the client is not able to speak this directly to the father in real life. If he would have spoken that up to the father, then obviously the person won't be sitting in front of the therapist now, isn't it? Yeah. So here they are they are creating a warm situation, a warm atmosphere where the client can really open up, and it helps to create self-awareness in the client. Again, there was one more thing. The therapist asked the client to rub hands. isn't it? Remember? Yeah, and again think of what the person is telling and what the person is going through. Then he realized that he was fearful of his own thoughts. Remember? Yeah, that's again creating self-awareness, right? He was not aware that he is fearing his own thoughts. He had thoughts to end his life. He had suicidal thoughts and all. But again, he is fearful of his own thoughts. And it is because of that technique that he realized that he is fearful of his own thoughts. Understood? So by using small techniques, the therapist is trying to create self-awareness and self-acceptance in the client. So finally, what was the end of the therapy? How did the client feel? What was his response? Elvina?
That he was very fearful about his or her thoughts, and he says that his father is very complicated.
Hmm. And in the beginning till the end, what changes occurred in that client? Don't remember?
So he feel relaxed.
Yeah, he be relaxed and more of self-realization, isn't it? In the beginning, he didn't really know what to do, what is the real problem. He was like hopeless about his condition. But after realizing that this is happening with him, that this is going through in his mind, then only he started to become okay. Then he realized that yes, I have become more aware of my own problems. I know what to do. Hmm? And again, when the therapist asked him to take the role of his father, what did he tell?
His father is very complicated.
Very complicated. And he cannot actually know what is in his father's mind also, isn't it? But if you would have actually spoken to the father in real life, then he would know what the father is expecting, what is actually torturing the father also. Maybe the father is actually a loving father, and father wants the son to become, something of higher status, or maybe he wants the son to get a good job or something like that. Hmm? But he is already fearful of his father. He thinks that the father is complicated. And because of that, he is stopping himself from talking to the father. So probably after this section, the therapist would have, not the therapist, the client would have suggested himself that he would actually go and talk to the father in person. Again, this is not suggested by the therapist. Did you notice that? The client itself is trying and finding and solving the problems on his own. Therapist is just trying to put them back on track. If they are derailing, then they are put back on track, or if they are going out of the topic, then again, therapist brings the client back on track. That is the job of the therapist in Gestalt therapy, client-centered, and also existential therapy. In humanistic existential forms, it's non-directive methods, which means the client itself has the lead role. The client always tries to find the problems and solve his or her problems. Okay, it is about Gestalt therapy. Now just see, just like Carl Rogers, we have one person in Gestalt therapy, that is Frederick Fritz Perls. Frederick Perls or Fritz Perls, both are correct. Okay, and Laura Perls also. What does the term Gestalt mean? Kirishma, Gestalt means
Shape or form.
shape or form, or what was the tagline of Gestalt theory?
Sum of its parts.
Whole is
Whole is better than some of its
Some of its parts. Okay. So gestalt means form or shape or whole. Okay. And this form of therapy, it was brought about by Fritz Perls. Frederick Perls or Fritz Perls. PRLS. And Laura Perls. Remember these names. What about client-centered therapy? Who's the person there?
Carl Rogers.
Carl Rogers. Don't forget that. Carl Rogers for client-centered therapy. And existential logotherapy. Who was the one? Anyone? Logotherapy. Viktor Frankl. Correct. Viktor Frankl, Carl Rogers, and here we have two people, Fritz Perls and Laura Perls. Laura Perls is the wife of Fritz Perls. Okay, and this is applicable in group settings also, not only in individual therapy, it is applicable in group settings, which is applicable gestalt therapy. Applicable in group settings also. Gestalt therapy is applicable in group settings also. Okay, and in the video that we saw, did you notice that he was kind of showing shivering behaviors and all? Like he was showing behaviors as if he's not comfortable, he is fearing something. And the therapist asked the client to focus on the chest. And that is especially important in gestalt therapy. The client is made aware of his or her own bodily processes also. Like if they are feeling butterflies in the stomach, if they are feeling heavy on the chest part, like when we are very sad and when we are not able to vent out our feelings, or when we are not able to cry out loud, we feel very heavy on the chest, isn't it? Have you felt that? Yeah. And when you're very anxious, when you're waiting your results, sometimes you'll get butterflies in your stomach. Yeah. Then when you're very much tense, some people have the tendency to do this. Yeah. Then what else? Sometimes they'll just sit and fidget. They'll sit and shake simply. Sometimes they'll storm their legs without any reason. So all these suggest that they are fearing something, or they are anxious, or they are stressed out, or maybe they are bored. Okay, so in therapy, in gestalt therapy, what happens is the therapist gives attention or focus the client's attention towards his or her own bodily processes also. So from that also the client can understand that I am feeling anxious, or I am feeling fearful, I'm feeling tensed. Okay, I'm feeling curious about something, or I'm doubtful about something, all that. All right. So in gestalt therapy, in a nutshell, we can give two names. That is Fritz Perls names. You have to mention that Fritz Perls and Laura Perls. Then it is a here and now approach. Please note that that's not given in your textbook. It's a here and now approach, and it focuses on the present. Note that point also. It focuses on the present. Then, what is the goal or aim? To create. Ashish, what is the goal or aim? To create
self-expressions.
Self-expression or self-awareness, self-acceptance also. Self-awareness and self-acceptance. In whom?
In clients.
In the client, obviously. The client has come for the therapy, right? So self-acceptance, self-realization, self-awareness of the client. That is the focus. And who has the main role? Again, the client has the main role. The therapist is just a facilitator here also. And then what else? It can be applied in group settings. It is very much applicable in group settings. Then one more point is the client has to focus on the bodily processes also to become more self-aware. Okay, so that he can actually label the feelings. Because of the feelings, they are having some physiological or bodily processes, isn't it? Or vice versa. Because of some bodily process, they are expressing some emotions. We learned about the stress response and all, fight or flight response. In that you saw how much physiology is involved and how much psychology is involved. So again, again the aim of this process is to make them self-aware, self-realize. Okay, I know I have used this self too much today because this is self-centered approach. So obviously I have to use it. Okay, any doubt in that? Client-centered and gestalt? No. Sana, any doubt?
No, no.
No. Okay. Mehak, are you feeling well now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So then we shall wind up. We'll meet in the next class. Now we have biomedical therapy. Then we have ethics and all those things. So please prepare for the seminar. Those who have got the topics, please prepare for the seminar for this chapter. And also prepare the questions as I told you for the next class. Okay. All right. Thank you.